I don't know who told me it was okay to get a mic and a camera. Well, I told me it was okay, but I'm not sure if I'm qualified to do that. But anyway, here we are. And I got a question. What is economics? Economics is a social science concerned with the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. It studies how individuals, businesses, governments, and nations make choices about how to allocate resources. Sounds about right. Hello and welcome to Econ Revolt. I am your host, Jamal, and today's episode is on how money circulates in today's economy. What in the world possessed me to start a show about economics? I mean, let's face it, my knowledge of economics up to this point had been minimal. I was just living the only way I knew how. Poor. Hard to believe, right? Then, one of the most exciting years of my life happened. I traveled to the other side of the planet, I purchased my first commercial property, and I jumped out of a plane. But more importantly, I lost my job, as did half the country, had to move back in with moms, and I was probably at one of the lowest points in my life. I had no idea what I was doing. Sound familiar? You add in civil unrest, growing sickness, and division of America, and thus you have born Econ Revolt. A place to build relationships, economically educate ourselves, and promote growth. When it's all said and done, we're just trying to make some changes for the betterment of our community. Now, some other things that we're going to discuss today. Where are we economically in America, and how I think we should move forward? Now, this is a basic, very, very basic first episode introductory to economics, okay? So bear with me, and hope you enjoy this journey with me, and we'll see what happens. Now, for starters, let's identify these four categories as the way money flows, right? Because we're talking about how money circulates in today's economy. We're going to break it down to 4 points. Ownership and management of companies, control labor force of trades and skills, the technological advancement, and the e-commerce industry. So first, let's go with the ownership and management of companies. This is pretty much your basic sole proprietorship, partnerships, LLC, S Corp, and C Corp business structures. I personally have created 4 business structures in my lifetime. I've had 4 businesses. I have 3 currently operating right now. I do not know it all. I'm still learning every day as I go. But if you know anything about me, you know that I'm willing to try anything one time. You know that I'm willing to put myself out there. A friend of mine said, I will risk it all to get it all. And he was saying that for himself, but that's exactly kind of how I operate. I will risk it all to gain it all. And what is all? To me, all is, and this is something my pastor said, all is becoming the best version of yourself, the best version of myself. I believe that you have to be challenged. You have to go through some things in order to find out who you are. You don't just figure out who you are just by going through the motions in life. You have to be challenged. You have to be tested, and you'll know what you're about. And, failure, and I want to remind you, most of you know this, failure is not one of those things that defines who you are as much as it just shows you what direction to go as it pertains to finding who you are. So that's my little input there. Let's get back to a little bit more of what ownership and management of companies is. So this is how we set up the exchange between producers and consumers. It is also the avenue in which we exchange labor for compensation. Now, Congress and state legislators are the ones who pass laws and ordinances as it pertains to the the legalities of business. So they're pretty much going to tell you what business you can run in this area, what business you can't run in this area, what kind of requirements there are for you to be able to run that business. Are there any certifications? Stuff like that. These things are put in place to obviously govern and make sure that no one abuses the certain structure of how businesses are supposed to be ran. And this is all for the consumer welfare. So consumer welfare, like me or you, the people who are purchasing from said producer, they need to be in certain guidelines and certain laws to make sure that they're not abusing their position, and make sure our well-being is intact. Just in case somebody didn't know what consumer welfare meant, I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there for you. Now, with that being said, Congress and legislators are the ones that make these laws and govern these ordinances. They're influenced by the people, by consumers, and by producers to make these laws. So, question: who do you believe has more influence on the legislation that is passed? Is it the average working American, middle class and below, or the higher income classified parties? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Now, in order to run these structures, we need the controlled labor force of trades and skills. One must have related experience and or skills in their desired field to hold a position, outside of entry level, of course. Controlled labor force of trades and skills sounds just like what it is. It's to make sure that the people holding the positions are qualified, certified to operate in whatever position that they're holding. And some positions are very important, right? When it comes to making sure somebody's qualified, certified. I mean, no-brainers. Healthcare professionals. They need to have a certain level of education, knowledge, and experience before they can start advising people to how they should take care of themselves and what they should do as far as health is concerned. Now, on the other hand, you have some parts of the labor force that may have very little requirements, right? These may be jobs like servers, housekeepers, lawn care specialists, pretty much any job that can be taught within a short period of time and requires little training and education. Now, no shade. I absolutely favor and am in favor of the entry-level part of the controlled labor force. In fact, I spent the last 12 years of my life in entry-level positions, and it's been pretty good to me so far. It's built a lot of character, it's built a lot of patience, a lot of understanding, and it's made me somewhat the professional man that I am today. So, shout out to all my entry-level workers out there, keeping the economy going. You definitely are just as important, you're just as important as those other positions that require education, experience, and skill. Don't let nobody tell you any different.
Tell them Jamal sent you.
How we ensure the successful distribution of our goods and services is very much dependent upon our controlled labor force. This is how money flows between consumers, producers, and laborers, which is why education is extremely important. By the beginning of the 21st century, it was taken by force by the technological advancement. So this is our next section. Terrible transition. But hey, this is my first time again. We just started this show. We're gonna figure out how this thing go. Economic revolution. You see the shirt? Oh, here we go. We'll talk more about how you can get one later on. So this industry, the technological advancement industry, is something that we should understand. It drives finances. It literally drives finances. Most currency today is moved through technology. You do not have to Google that, or you don't have to research that to know. Your debit card, your credit card, these finances are pretty much transferred from one account to another. We have a lot less cash exchange than we did 20 years ago. I mean, I work in a sales position now where, we don't even take cash anymore. Guy asked me the other day, do I take cash? No, I don't take cash. You need to have a debit card, credit card, or a checking account where we can get the money out that way. So think about other things like apps, computers, automation, robotics, manufacturing, and so on. Manufacturing companies are now, I won't put any percentages out there, but it's a great deal of manufacturing companies that are now automated. So most businesses today will operate in some type of automated system. And again, this is the driving force. This is the driving force of money. And last but certainly not least, another driving force of the currency in today's economy is the e-commerce industry. Now, this technically is a makeup of all the industries sold through the internet. Online producing and consumption, as you all know, is considerably lucrative in today's market. Now, I'm going to tie it up for you in just a little while, okay? So all this means something, right? Don't get bored on me. We're going to take this thing somewhere. The e-commerce industry, just so you know, and I just found this out myself, it's right at $3.5 trillion worldwide. So you can imagine what the e-commerce industry, what kind of weight it holds in America today. Now, again, remember I said basic, right? So this is how currency circulates in the basic description. Build a business, you hire laborers to work the business, you keep up with technology, and you adjust to innovation. If you don't keep up, you will get left behind. So what does that mean for the average working American? And where are we economically? So most of us are aware, currently we are in a
recession.
Most of us are aware on how we got here. But are we considering what to do post-COVID-19? Now, sure, there's a lot of things that are being reported in media that we have our attention on, right? But I challenge you. Take that focus and put it on yourself for a second. And this is what Econ Revolt's all about. Take that focus and put it on your community for a second. Okay? You start small, then you work your way up. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Shout out USMC. What plans do you have for yourself and what plans do you have for your community? And this is a serious question. You will see my plans for myself and my plans for my community here on this show. I will broadcast it for you. I think it's very interesting. Some of the things that I believe that should be implemented. I think it's very imperative, and I think it's very important that I share that with you. If you know me, then you know I'm all for people. I'm really for people. I'm the type of guy that'll lay down everything on the line for someone that he cares for and someone that he believes in. So, but think about that question as we go into 2021. Think about what it is that you're gonna do differently than you did last year. What kind of plans do you have for yourself and your community? Fun fact, not really a fun fact, actually. It's actually a not so fun fact, but 39% of Americans are not able to handle a $400 emergency. Now, there is entirely too much currency going around for 39% of Americans not to be able to afford a $400 emergency. In my opinion, it's not a matter of, well, it's a combination of if we are making enough finances and where are we allocating our finances as individuals and as communities. There's a lot to think about. When we talk about economics, we're talking about every aspect of our lives, all put into one category. Now, while I don't have all the answers, I do have ideas. And I hope that they work. And once you hear them, hopefully you'll hope they work as well. But there are a few things that we should consider when talking about the current state of the nation. like what determines the wages that one may make in the labor force in America. And there are many studies that suggest that supply and demand is a great explanation of how wages are determined. In simplest form, the increase in supply will increase wages. The more products or services sold, the more labor force is needed. Again, basic stuff. The opposite of that is also simple. The decrease in demand will decrease wages. Now, this is a testament to the availability of work, not to the wages paid. Training, education, skill, and experience will inevitably be the determining factor in how entities will value wages. I said that really slow. I didn't want to mess it up. Based on Congress and state legislators, that is, of course, based on what they require is the minimum amount. Now, we all know $7.25 is the minimum amount currently federally in America. Now, some states have upped that from the federal minimum wage to $10 or more, and good on those states, right? And some businesses have also realized that I can't keep paying, I cannot keep paying these employees this wage that is no longer a livable wage in America. So those big corporations are now paying the employees a lot more starting out. And I won't name any corporations, but you should know who they are. Some of this stuff is pretty common knowledge. If not, go ahead and check them out, look them up. And there, that's for a non-tip based position and a non-commission based position. I currently am in a full commission based position, so that means I don't make any cash unless I perform the duties that are set to be performed. But let's talk about that $7.25, and I'm focusing on that because it is important to understand, when we put the pieces together on this show, why economically we might be in a position that we're in. Now, this number before taxes only adds up to an extra $3,000 above what the poverty line is set to be, which is $12,000. Now, even with the $15 an hour wage, a single American citizen would be left to either get another source of income, which isn't bad, it just depends on what kind of source of income, or find another single American to share a home with. You get where I'm going. So one would think with the wage being as low as it is, that consumer spending would possibly take a hit. In fact, it's the quite opposite. Consumer spending has been increasing tremendously since the last increase in the minimum wage federally. So the fact that we're still spending more money, but the wage is still as low as it is, it concerns me. And also compels me to look into it a little bit more and try to figure out why. Consumer spending has been rising, but the minimum wage has been stagnant, and then actually it hasn't really been a livable wage. You factor that in with the increase of groceries, produce, rent, and transportation. You include that with the social construct of keeping up with the Joneses and the American debt, the average American debt of $90,000. That's one person. The average household income of $70,000. That's two people. And we have a fluctuating wage and wealth gap that's plaguing the integrity of this nation. What does it say when you have Fortune 500 companies giving quarter-cent raises, but their revenue streams are increasing anywhere from 100 to 300%? The very employees that help them get that increase receive a very ridiculously small amount of the benefits. Keep getting tongue-tied here, but again, it's my first time. Cut me some slack. And mind you, I understand that some smaller businesses can't pay over a certain wage before reaching into their own pocket. I'm not referring to them. For 40 hours or more of your time and mine that we are expected to give versus the wages that we are paid are only just enough so that you and I will not end up homeless. Again, there has been an increase in supply and demand, but there has not been an increase in wages to follow suit, mandated by state legislators and Congress. Well, by Congress more so. State legislators, sure. Some of them in certain states, they're doing it, but in other states, they're not. And I happen to live in a state that is one of them, and that is
South Carolina. So,
enough of that. Now let's talk about how do we move forward. And this is going to be quick. It's not enough to be a company man or woman alone. It's not enough to have just one source of income or rely only on the opportunities that are presented to you. I believe it is within our power to pursue our own way of living and supporting each other in that journey, with the emphasis of supporting each other, not just emotionally or verbally, but monetarily as well. Creating opportunities in our own communities that are self-sustaining and not dependent on government or socially constructed ideas is a new concept that I feel needs to be implemented, and it is imperative to greater change. What kind of future do you want to have for your kids? Are you really interested in building a community that will benefit your kids? Or are you only concerned about sending your kids to a community that they can thrive in? And I ask that question because a lot of our kids, and including myself, we rush to another community to hope to find a better opportunity. And some of us find them, but some of us end up coming right back home. So the question is, are you more likely to move to another location and start a new life that has more opportunity? Or are you willing to stay home and create opportunity in your community? Just a question. Rhetorical question, but something to think about. Now, perhaps there will always be a low-class level of people struggling every day throughout our lives to keep up. However, I stand firm in believing there is However, I stand firm in believing that if there is anything to fight for and strive to, the betterment of our people and our communities is always worth the battle. Thank you for tuning in, and this journey is going to be a nice one. And you'll see some topics that'll really come up, like socially constructed ideas, going from defense to offense. And I don't want to give too many headlines of episodes away, so we're gonna move on here. But you'll start to see this thing pieced together. So I encourage you to follow, and keep up with what's going on, because we have some great things happening in our local community, and we're going to try to spread it out throughout the Southeast region and then move from there. I hope you enjoy the content that we put out, and I hope you enjoy what we got coming to you.